will be presiding in Doris's absence as she is retiring today. So congratulations to Doris. So the Board of Education makes available at least one current copy of the Open Meetings Act, which is posted on the west wall of the meeting room and accessible to members of the public. First off is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion, please?
I would put Board of Education is just 15 through the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Jan. We got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Brandon. All those in favor, aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And we will start with summer project updates.
Okay, so as she's on her way up here, come on up. I've asked Rhonda to just provide you with a list of the summer projects that she has been working on, lining up, and some of those things are in the process right now. So she's prepared a list for you. It should be in front of you, and I will turn it over to her to hit the highlights.
Good evening. I just want to say I'm very happy and grateful to be a part of a great team. I got some great support down there. We have a great maintenance as well as custodian team, and I'm very fortunate to be present here and be able to give you some updates and some projects that we'll be doing this summer. We're going to be doing the gym floor resurfacing in the high school, both the main gym and the auxiliary gym. That's estimate cost of, well, we got a bid and it was $7,000. We'll be doing a 30-second clock because for the basketball team, because the 30-second clock will be mandated come this next season. And I have Kenny working on the design for that. So the cost on that's very minimal except for the price of the 30-second clock. We have a couple doors at the high school that will be getting some updating with the thresholds and molding, and then there'll be that center beam that we can turn and take it out to make a wider opening for people that might be utilizing the gym off over the weekend and off time. We're planning on possibly re-overhauling or replacing the food truck Tommy left. I'm still waiting on that estimate, still waiting on that, and that's part of the plans to get done this summer as well. I was out doing irrigation today around the high school, and it was great because the control box controls, you're able to run that through an app on your phone. So you don't have to be at the control box. You can just run it, turn it on, turn it off, and let me just say, that control, that total control, you can sit there, turn it on, okay, the spray's off, it's spraying on the sidewalk, right? So you turn it off, you adjust the spray, and then you can see that's gonna be perfect for the grass and not getting anybody wet. So I have proposed a new controller box for the actual House of Orange, and with that Wi-Fi in that control box, so it doesn't take so long to check sprinklers and to get the work done properly. Additional items, we are looking at mulching, landscaping at both the middle school and the high school and the board office. Paint some doors, repair the forklift at the high school. Actually, that got completed today. Gym floors resurfacing at the middle school. We're moving on to the middle school now. That estimate was $3,093.20. That's both of those floors are going to be resurfaced in the first week in August.
And that's at the middle school?
Middle school and high school the
Okay.
first week. The first week will be the high school, and the second week will be the middle school. Or in that same week, I'm sorry.
I think that's on the back side of your sheet. And when I
Yeah,
copy it,
yeah.
it's back side.
Oh, sorry.
You can, that's my fault.
We'll just listen.
Sorry. We're also have an estimate to replace the water softener in the middle school. That was about $1,600. And then painting exterior doors and rooms. So Along with the preschool and elementary, we have that grant that we received for the Fit America. So it's a Fit Kit. There's 5 different workout stations, and we'll install that at Stoddard and then eventually move that to the new elementary. There's a couple slides. I'm giggling because it happens to be Kevin's schools, Stoddard and Paddock, and,
Starter in Lincoln.
oh, excuse me, yeah, I wrote that wrong, Stoddard and Lincoln. And then, we will see what we wanna do with those, either replacing, fixing, repairing, something. We really don't wanna replace because of cost, and we don't wanna put even more money into the elementary schools if need be. Other than that, we're just gonna address some safety issues, outside lights, glass on playground, dangling tree limbs, and then the basic cleaning for the summer. Down at the bus barn, I call it, I do plan on doing some auctions on our Facebook account and auctioning off some mowers, a Chevy pickup, and a Ford Taurus as well. Other than that, we've got a couple new hires coming up. Mike Cyrus is gonna be starting on Tuesday in maintenance, and then Cheryl Mills will be our evening custodian at the middle school. So that's exciting news there. And other than that, we'll get the buses serviced for another year and be on our way.
Thank you.
All right?
Any questions for Rhonda? All right, thank you, Rhonda.
All right,
Thank you, Nona.
Yep.
All right, next up, bread and milk bids.
Okay, this will be something that we will approve in June, but I just wanted to give you the update on where we are with bread and milk bids. On May 1st, all the bids were due back to the district office. We sent out three bids to different companies for bread, and then two requests for milk. We received 1 bread bid back and 1 milk bid back. We usually have another bread bid that comes back, however, the company has written to us and said they will no longer be doing that. They will no longer be servicing schools. So, we are moving forward with the only bids that we have. We are moving forward with Rotella for the bread and then Highland for milk.
Any major increases or?
For lunch prices, moving on, I'll just keep moving down the
Oh, yeah,
list,
that's
does that
fine.
work?
Yeah.
Okay, so the lunch prices, again, we will approve this in June. And we will be increasing the lunch and milk prices in order to meet federal requirements identified through the paid lunch equity tool. We have to reach the weighted average price, or we work towards reaching the weighted average price. The current average paid price is $3.55. If you look at our prices, we are close to $3.55. So we can go up 10 cents in order to try to meet that. 10 cents is the cap that you can raise it from year to year. So we just continue to, we will raise it by 10 cents, and we raise all the prices by 10 cents except for the free or the reduced and the reduced cost. Milk, we are also increasing that by 5 cents. We have not increased that since 2016, 2017. And for staff prices, they have yet to be determined and provided by the USDA, so we've increased them 25 cents from $4 to $4.25, and if we have to increase them more, we will do so once we receive information from the USDA. So we usually do not get that until August timeframe is when they release that. Hopefully they will release it earlier and maybe give us information before, but otherwise you will be asked to approve those lunch prices and those increases in June. Okay, the next,
Do we
yep.
have a lot of outstanding, unpaid?
Lunch accounts.
Lunch accounts, yeah, how are we
We
doing on that?
have a few, and I know that our secretaries are finishing up calls, and they are still making calls, and a lot of parents are saying, okay, I'll bring it in. I was gonna bring it in today, gonna bring it in tomorrow, gonna bring it in on this day in a week, and so we're still working with families very closely. The other thing is we still do have some funding for donations. So I was waiting until the end of the year to figure out where we were and then to make sure everyone else was back down to zero. I have had a patron also approach me and say, tell me what the end balance is, and I will write a check. So we have had gracious community members step up and provide donations, and it's been truly awesome for the families, and every parent I have called has been just beyond grateful. So it has been a nice, it's been a great thing to do. Yep. So we are working on that.
All right, any questions on lunch or bread and milk bids? Multiculturalism report.
Okay, so that is the next packet of information, and you have a multicultural, non-sexist education report, and you have one for the preschool and elementary schools. You have one for the middle school, and then you have one for the high school. So all three of those are in your packet. Every year we update the board on the different things that are taking place in the classroom, and one of those areas is the multiculturalism, non-sexist area. So as we reflect on this, we know that there are a lot of great things happening in our classroom. There are a lot of great things that our teachers are doing to provide our students a deeper understanding of cultures that may not be similar to our own. And so they have a lot of great conversations. They use great literature. They use CNN News, Fox News. They use all different sources to talk about the many different things that are happening, but also to talk about, you know, why do we need to be accepting of others? Why do we need to be able to step into someone else's shoes? Why do we need to understand other people's cultures? And so they have done a lot of great activities. One of the things I do want to highlight this year that has really, and the feedback from students really noted the impact of this, was the bringing in of the Youth Frontiers retreats. And so that was for 5th, 7th, and 9th grade students. And it was another piece that allowed the students to have discussions in a very safe environment. And the students opened up, exposed different things, and it was very fun to see how accepting, how kind individuals were at that point in time. So that was a great piece that we've added last year, and I have written a grant, and I know Christina Lyons will help to continue to write grants for those pieces as well. So we will continue with that. I am not going to read through all the activities for you. I know, I know you want me to, but I am not. So I will let you peruse through the great things happening in our classrooms, but there are a lot. Any questions about that?
Thank you. Wellness policy.
So the next thing you have in front of you is the wellness policy, which is policy 5417 and the regulation for 5417. Every 3 years, we have to evaluate and update our wellness policy and the regulation if needed. After evaluating our policy, we have determined that no updates are needed this year because we are meeting the state guidelines for wellness. So one of the things I want to talk about are a couple of the goals that we are continuing to work on with our wellness policy. And there are areas where we have to continue to improve to make sure that we are meeting the policy. The committees, making sure that we have a wide membership. And I think that's probably the toughest part, is making sure we get community members as part of that piece. We do probably in silos or in different ways, but we need to bring it more together as a collective whole. So a couple of the goals that we continue to work on are continuing to offer a variety of fruits and vegetables during lunch. Because we know exposure to different things helps students try, helps students, see different pieces, helps students understand that there is something out there more. Now, I do know sometimes we end up throwing a lot away, but it is there, and we are trying to help students see all the different varieties there. The other thing that we qualified for this year at the preschool, the 3 elementary buildings, and then our middle school was the Fresh Fruits and Vegetable Program. I will tell you that was another great avenue to push out a wider variety of those fruits and vegetables. Next year, middle schools have been removed from the buildings that can qualify. So the only buildings next year that will qualify are preschool and elementaries. And I know that our middle school kids are maybe a little bummed that they will not get that snack every once in a while, because it is nice. Another goal that we have worked on is to increase active participation in physical education classes, promoting that lifelong healthy habits. Because our students do not have PE every day. So when they do have that PE class, we want to make sure that they are truly active and that they are moving. And so those are things that we want to continue to do, is push them to understand the importance of that lifelong healthy habits. Another goal that we had is we have increased mental health supports in Beatrice Public Schools. We've continued to look at, I know Beth has been trying to add more hours, add supports, and to broaden all of the mental health pieces that she provides all students in special education that will qualify. But we've also added services through the Beatrice Community Hospital and Health Center. I know that Blue Valley has also added as much as they possibly can. And so that is one of our other goals, that we continue to figure out ways to target those mental health pieces and to try to provide services for any child that may need it at any time. So at this point in time, we will not be making any changes. I have to submit everything to the state by June 30th. So I will have everything submitted by then, and then if they come back and say, oh wait, you haven't met this, or you need to tweak this, that's where I will bring this back to you and say, okay, the state came back with some updates, so we'll make updates at that point in time.
So why did middle school not qualify? Is it just they dropped middle schools, or?
They have dropped middle schools. It's kind of, it is kind of sad.
But what would be the cost?
I don't know. The other part that I will talk about is the CEP, and that part, because I know that there are costs that are there, and so I don't know what the cost would be, but I know food is not cheap, especially fresh food is not cheap either. So that's the part, is I don't know the cost, because you would be providing it to approximately 450 students, and we do it 2 times a week. Okay, so, yeah.
So have they moved forward with doing like a mini mart like they did at the high school, and would that be an avenue that could possibly provide fresh fruits? As long as the turnover is.
Okay, I'm gonna ask Andrew to help me with that question.
Our plan is not to, the difficult part with the mini market is the shelf life of some of those products.
Right.
And so with the fresh fruits and vegetables, the mini market, yes, will come in the middle school next year, but it won't fully replace what we had with the fresh fruit and vegetable grant. That was really nice for all of our kids, our athletes, and especially those with, food insecurities. A lot of the kids would take the whole, the leftovers home, a whole bag of apples or cucumbers or whatever it may be. It reached a lot more kids. The mini market will reach those that are in true need of food insecurities, but predominantly it'll be things that have a longer shelf life due to cost.
Okay, thank you.
So that is where we are with the wellness policy, and there are things that we can continue to explore as we get the team together as to how do we continue to maybe seek out other resources to help with that. But at this point in time, our budget will not cover the extra cost with that piece. Mr. Suter had another update as well.
I'll just add that I
Yep.
think we've been in discussions with the food pantry. I think we're looking at offering vegetables and some types of meats at the high school starting next year to add to our mini market.
That's awesome.
I know you weren't asking specifically about the high school,
Yep.
but I'm gonna throw that out there.
And admittedly, we are going to pull out the experience that they've had with the mini market and their trials and successes and so forth, and try to emulate it as much as possible to fit our needs. So.
Okay.
hiring update, board policy, graduation requirements.
Okay, so all of this kind of fits together as one, and there's gonna be different people that we invite into the conversations because you may have questions or to help with clarification. So we're just going to basically run through, very quickly where we are with staffing, as we have it now. And this is primarily in regards to certificated staff or teachers, okay? So, at the preschool, we are fully staffed, so they're staffed and ready to go for 23-24. That's good news. At the elementary, we have 3 different elementary schools to talk about, but we also then need to include SPED. So Beth, if I say anything wrong, correct me.
Okay.
But the only change in SPED is that Casey Zarbanicki has officially moved from speech language pathologist A to elementary resource at Paddock Lane and Stoddard for the 23-24 school year. And we have our usual amount of para openings to fill this summer, which will be done in mass interview days in late June. And all certified positions have been covered at this point. So that's the update from SPED. Anything to add?
No, it was very challenging. Last year we had, I think 9 SPED openings, and it was much easier than to fill 2 that we had this year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes it just depends on what the opening is in.
yeah.
And right now, speech language pathology is a tough place to fill, and
SPED.
SPED in general is, so, yep. At Paddock Lane, so Mrs. Repple, if I need corrected, please do so. We have 1 teacher who is yet to be certified, but will have her certification completed in December. She's qualified as a substitute teacher in our district as of now, and will continue this way through semester 1 until she has her teacher certification. So through the Department of Education, we can work those angles with different situations. There's different types of certifications you can get and be able to teach until you reach that certification point. So, okay, all right. At Lincoln, we are fully staffed, Mr. Jansen.
Yep.
And at Stoddard, we have 1 teacher who is yet to be certified as well, but will have certification completed in December. She is qualified as a substitute teacher in our district as well, and will continue to way through semester 1 until she has her certification. So,
Correct.
okay. At the middle school, we have adjusted special education a little bit. We talked to you about this a little bit in the May board meeting. We went from 3 full-time teacher positions with a resource special education teacher at each level. We have a special education teacher who's coming back from retirement and will do the paperwork, and all the services will be provided and shared among the 2 resource special education teachers and 1 behavior special education teacher. So why this is unique, and I just want to take a moment and talk about this because it's a unique model, but why it's unique is because it allows 1 person to really focus on the IEP writing and the paperwork processes that have to be completed in special education. So that 1 person is going to work on that process while our 3 teachers are delivering services to kids. And then they'll work collaboratively on the IEPs as they need to, but it helps disseminate some of that part paperwork. So it's kind of a unique way, and you know, as we start into the next part of this conversation, we are going to have to continue to find those unique ways to go about providing the educational services we do, just because of the teacher shortage that we're in. So we'll have more updates for you along that one. So anything else to add there, Beth?
Just, we're gonna advertise for that position early, because we would, if we can find a full-time person to come back into that position, that's the ideal situation.
Yep. Andrew?
Yep. Thankfully, we're in a position where a couple of our other special education teachers' numbers and needs were a little bit lower for next year, and was able to accommodate the needs of the 8th grade resource. So I appreciate their willingness to take on more of the day-to-day tasks while their typical numbers and needs were lower. So we were able to accommodate it this year with this type of setup, but as Beth said, as the 6th and 7th grade special education numbers are much higher than 8th grade, as those move forward, it may be difficult to us to completely operate that model without having another special education teacher.
And as stated, we are trying to look for every needle in the haystack and turn over every stone we possibly can to find those folks. It's just, they're not out there, so. So that leaves us with the high school, and really there are two parts, well, there's multiple parts to the high school discussion, but I'm gonna start with the computer science, because we've been talking about this for a while, and we wanna bring it back to you, and just give you a quick update. We will not know the outcome of LB 750 until it's heard on the floor, on the legislative floor in the next week or so. The session ends on the 31st, and then there'll be some technical cleanup that'll take place on the 1st and 2nd. So we don't really know what's gonna happen with that computer science graduation requirement. Right now, in LB 750, there's a bill specifically related to pushing that date of implementation back, and then also allowing some more flexibility within the bill as it's written. How that comes out there could be amendments on the floor, so I don't want to go too deep into the details. But essentially, we are knowing that we won't know that till the end of May, 1st of June. We have made plans and we've made contingency plans, and we know that we're planning to move forward with the current 7th graders getting the instruction and earning high school credit in 8th grade next year, okay? So they have that requirement met and are prepared either way, no matter how it comes out of the legislative process. This is also a good, solid plan in my opinion, because I think this is how we would proceed in future years if the legislation gives us that flexibility, for the simple standpoint that it allows us to take care of that graduation requirement that's now a mandate from the state at the middle school level, and continue to offer students that move into the high school another opportunity at an elective course that they may be interested in. So that's why we feel like it's important to continue down that path. But as I said, we won't know until, we'll keep you updated. You'll probably get updates too through the School Board Association at the end of May.
And that course will be offered for a quarter in person, a quarter by themselves. So 8th graders will be expected to complete the requirements on their own for one of their quarters. They'll do it in their mentor study hall, so they will have the support of that mentor study hall teacher, but they will be required to complete it on their own. At the high school, I know we're looking at in person, but we're also looking at Odyssey Ware course too that kids can take as well to meet the requirement too. So we're looking at all different options.
So as I speak about these things, know that when I say we, I'm talking about collaboration with the middle school principals, the high school principals, teachers. We've had teachers in to have these discussions as well, and have all collectively come to the conclusion that that's our best bet of moving forward. Any questions about that?
So the computer science, it would be online then, that they would have a curriculum?
Well, a quarter of it would be in the classroom with the teacher, and then the teacher creates the modules and sends those out through Google Classroom.
Okay.
Yep.
The independent study part of that would most likely be, as what we're planning on now, is through an Amazon-based curriculum called Project STEM. It's a computer programming curriculum that has direct instruction videos that they can watch of how to complete the lessons, and our teacher can monitor that remotely, their progression. And so they have the ability to do that on a self-paced level throughout that quarter when they're not physically in the classroom.
Okay, thanks.
So, with that stated, then I'm going to continue to move on to the high school. You all know about the move that we've made from STS adding an ag position, so that will start up in the fall as well. We're excited about that. That also creates an opportunity for some elective courses for kids. We've moved a special education teacher to FCS. She wanted to make that move. She had expressed interest. So we will have family consumer science, and she will continue to pick up one special ed course in that process. So that's all worked itself out. The area that's probably been the most challenging is the English teacher position. Essentially, what I'm telling you is there are no candidates available, and we are not the only school facing this situation. And you've heard me talk about that before, so I don't need to beat a dead horse. But we will continue to advertise, we will continue to try and search for an English teacher. But at this point, what we've been able to, that's kind of come our way, it was funny how it all happened, but that's a story for another time. We will have a student teacher that will be helping us out. So I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Suter and kind of let him add in. Yeah, you can come on up.
Okay.
How this all happened, because, and I don't want to go into the full detail, but how it all works, so.
Right, so, first of all, thanks for some of you, for Janet, thank you for being at graduation the other day. We had a nice ceremony and we missed you. But, anyway, yes, what I would like to tell you is we have not had any applications come in for English. Mr. Hakey shared with me at a meeting that there was a desire by Doane University or Doane College to have a student teacher placed in our district. We got on that right away, and we will have a student teacher teaching English first semester at the high school. What that did was it gave we're a 5-person English department. Now we're a 4-person English department. Without that, it gave us a 4.5 for at least one semester. So what that allowed us to do was to add 2 sections. We were looking at just simply teaching English with the 4 teachers and not having journalism or intro to theater and some of those courses available to be offered. What this does, by having the student teacher here for a semester, it lets us have at least 2 sections of journalism and 1 section of intro to theater. And so we will be able to handle about half of the, well, depending on who they are that seek that class. It typically is freshmen. They like to get that communications course done that first year. We'll be able to have at least 75 students meet that communications requirement through those 2 courses. And now, second semester, we don't have anybody in place at this time. Although, as Jason said, and I agree, there are things that just happen. We hear about people that move to town. We hear about someone that might be doing a student teaching. We're not gonna give up, and we're gonna keep looking for that second semester English teacher if we can find that person. In fact, we had a celebration today for our retiring teachers, and I heard at that celebration that one of our teachers knows a cousin of theirs who's student teaching English in the fall and may be looking for a job in the spring. So I'm going to call that person probably tomorrow and see what's going on. But that's an example. We'll continue to look. We'll continue to look at what options we might have available, because it would be nice to offer some more journalism and theater courses second semester next year also. I've never seen anything like this. We've never, my 20 years as principal, we've never had just simply no applications for positions. It's real. It's here, and we're doing our best. And I think what Jason said is true. We've had to think outside the box. We've had to be creative with a lot of our positions and how we're doing things. And we're gonna, knock on wood, continue to offer a lot of opportunities for kids at the high school, which is something we take a lot of pride in. It's just gonna be in ways that maybe are different than what we've done in the past. So it's been a good way. Been a good growth. Now, he goes, do you want me to go ahead and keep talking here about the
options?
Yeah, I think a lot of the kids will still be able to get that communications requirement. We also have looked at, as you know, I've come to you before and looked at a public speaking course that's offered through our Odysseyware online program. We've looked at public speaking offered at the college, that our kids can take that as a dual credit. We've looked at our computer science course that we offer as being able to meet those needs. So I still think that, although we've talked about possibly kind of suspending that requirement for a year, I think personally, I think we can still push through and still give a lot of kids that opportunity, and then hopefully catch them up during those other 4 years of high school.
And you will be working on, if there are any seniors that need it, they will
Yeah.
take first
Yeah,
priority,
we've
correct?
already identified, we have 8 seniors, juniors, now seniors, that have not had the communications requirement, and we've already identified them, and we've got them in courses for next year. So, we are not going to not have someone not graduate from our school because we didn't offer the communications requirement. We've identified those kids, and they'll get it, and they'll be successful, and that won't be an issue. The concern is if this is an ongoing thing, then we have to look at how that impacts freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. But
So it might be a discussion spring next year.
Yep.
If we need to readjust that again, because I know we talked about it about this time last year.
yeah,
Yeah,
and like I said, if that person who's student teaching that's related to one of our staff members is interested in coming to Beatrice, we might be able to hire that for second semester, and not an issue.
Keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
cross your fingers.
I think the key highlights to this, in all honesty, are, it comes down to, we're gonna continue to see these shortages in specific areas, and we're gonna continue to try and find ways to solve those. But there are certain things that we have to do in order to keep our accreditation with the state. We have to meet the state requirements first. The next set of things we look at is, what do we want to require as a Board of Education? What do you want kids to have to do? And right now, we're, as Mr. Seeger said, we think we can push through with that communications requirement in place. But there may come a time where we have to look at suspending that, because we've got to do what the state says. These things, board policy-wise, there are things we want to do and we think are good for kids to do. But ultimately, we may not be able to provide all that. So that's just kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah, I guess also you need to know we have Rule 10, which is our guiding principle. The high schools in the state of Nebraska are allowed to have no less than 80% of their teachers teaching in their identified area, their certified area. So 80% of our teachers need to be teaching in their certified area. We've traditionally been very, very low on that percentage, meaning that we hire teachers that can teach the area that they're certificate in. But we've had to look at that, but we'll be fine. We're not breaching that by any means. So.
Okay, so that's a update on hiring, and also includes some of the graduation requirements tied in, so you understand how they impact one another. And appreciate everyone's help. Thank you all principals for being here tonight, and Beth, Ed Director, to help answer any questions that might come up. I am going to send you this little piece of this document that came to us, and it's from the Department of Education on the teacher vacancy survey comparison. And what it is I'm not gonna cover the stats with you right now, you can look at them, but it basically does a comparison between the year 2021 and 2022 and survey responses from schools all across the state in terms of the shortages that are happening, so. But as I said, you can look at that.
I think the key theme here is it's not just Beatrice.
Correct, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely not.
Okay, next up, any more questions on hiring, graduation requirements? Okay, certified comp time.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So, let me get around to you. Through the negotiations process, we've been working with the Board of Education to establish a comp time option for certificated staff, so that we're talking teachers again. This idea evolved as a result of just trying to find ways to help people get to family events, doctor's appointments, our staff that are locked in during the day, and sometimes they have to use their personal time off days to go to those types of things, and then they run out. And so the negotiations committee asked if there was a way that we could look into a comp time option for certificated staff. And we worked with legal counsel, so you should know that we've been working with Prairie Law Firm on this. And the idea is to allow an additional 6 hours of comp time for doctor's appointments, family ball games, whatever the case may be, that certificated staff are considered professional exempt employees, and therefore they're not entitled to overtime pay or additional pay. So this comp time pay is about the only thing we can offer them because they're exempt from overtime pay. So, highlights of the draft plan. So I'm just gonna hit the highlights, and here's how it works. It's basically, for every hour that a teacher may spend covering a class period for either administrative personnel or other personnel in the form of an activity, supervision coverage, or designated administrative approved supervisory support role, that teacher should have the option of accruing 1 hour of comp time maybe, or we would pay them $23 an hour, okay? And that number is tied to some other specific things, but that $23 per hour is there. So basically what we're doing is saying, if you help, and sometimes teachers help cover events for administrators when they're spread all over the state going to all the other events, they help cover, they can earn an additional hour for that of comp time. If they don't want the comp time, then they can take the $23 per hour for that, okay? So that's the basic concept. In order to earn either option, the teacher must meet the following conditions. One, the teacher was not scheduled to teach during that time, so we can't double dip, all right? That wouldn't be allowed. Number two, the teacher was not required to complete any other obligations during that time, such as lunch duty, recess duty, or so forth. So what that's basically saying is, we have to rely on being able to assign a management prerogative to assign teachers to certain positions to help with things already, like lunch duty, recess duty, and those types of things. So this wouldn't apply to that. They still have to complete any of those obligations that they're assigned. And third, the teacher is not required to cover the class due to disciplinary reasons. So in other words, what this means is you can't earn a comp time if you're a teacher that may be on a plan of assistance by going in and covering for another teacher. Those two things don't mesh up. So if there's disciplinary measures being assigned to the teacher, they can't earn comp time with that, for that disciplinary time. So those are three of the conditions that are written in there by legal counsel. The total maximum accrual time that a teacher could accumulate in a school calendar is not to exceed 6 hours and does not carry over from 1 year to the next. So they could earn up to 6 hours by covering 6 hours. All right? Or they could choose to pay out, remember the $23. Additional comp time must be approved by the building level administrator with appropriate advance notice not less than 48 hours. So the reason that's in there is that if the teacher wants to take the comp time they've earned, they have to give at least 48 hours notice to make all the arrangements happen. And they have to be part of that problem-solving process. Additional comp time exceeding class coverage or requiring a substitute will only be granted upon internal substitute availability. This changed a little bit from working with the negotiations committee to start with. So the reason for that is because of the tracking that has to take place and how we have to document that. And if we have external subs coming in, then that creates an issue for us in the overall tracking position. So this would have to be applicable to their comp time only being used when we can find an internal substitute candidate. So it's kind of a sticky wicket, but it's about the only way we can do it. And finally, we also have days where any day off is not allowed, personal time off or comp time, and those are written in board policies, and those are such as days as before a holiday break or the last 3 student days of the year or the semester. So those are any of those days that are already written into board policy, they would not be able to use the comp time for that. Okay? So that's the concept of what we're trying to work towards, is create a win-win situation for our staff that help us do so many other things and are so gracious about giving their time, The last part of this is trying to create a win-win situation for the district. And really, what it comes down to is we want to be able to offer our certified staff some additional time when they are helping us. But it can't just be for those few that maybe can help cover IEPs or help cover other things that, you know, supervisory duties that are quasi-administrative, and they may have an administrative degree. So we came to the idea that another way a teacher could earn some comp time would be to help us in an area where we experience extreme shortage. That area is finding people to do things like take tickets at ball games, line judge, books at ball games, clocks at ball games, all those types of things. So additionally, teachers that may not have an administrative degree, but are willing to help us with those other things, after they do 3 events, they earn a free activity pass, and so they would still get that. But if they help us, they can also earn comp time to be used elsewhere if they want to, up to 6 hours. So that's the philosophy behind this whole comp time suggestion. I think it's a good situation for our district from the standpoint it gets back to being creative about things that we can offer staff to come to Beatrice. I think it helps us retain staff that we have. So it meets strategic goal number 3. The steps that we've taken so far: 1, we've worked with the negotiations committee, we've worked with legal counsel, we've worked with the principals have all heard this. But what I guess I would like to know tonight is, with your blessing, so to speak, that we have the opportunity to talk to teachers about this before we bring it back to you for formality. So this is just, I want you to understand.
I guess I would start by asking, how easy is this to implement and manage? Just the accounting processes.
That's one of the things we're working on, and that's why we looked at that 1 to 2 hour increments only, so it's
Okay.
not in our system. We've talked about, okay, there's, you know, maybe it's a form, and the teacher keeps track of the form, and they have to have a signature signed off when they complete. So I took tickets last night. Well, there's an administrator that is usually there that can sign off on that. So I note that, and then I come back to them with this document that has, okay, I'm using the comp time at this point in time. So everything is logged and everything is signed off on both sides, whether it's I'm accruing or whether I'm using, because that is the one thing that we know. We want to make management as probably as easy as possible, because there is no one in the district office that has time to manage this. We know our principals don't have time to manage this. We know our building secretaries don't. So let's put it back on the person that will be accruing and the person that will be using it, and working with that supervisor at that point in time. And that's one of the ideas. Now, it is another area that we still have to continue to work through, and that will be part of what we do this summer, is making sure we cover our bases and look at all of the different pieces so that we do have it set, and we do find a system that works for a lot of the individual groups.
Great.
No, I think this is a good step. I guess I would agree to now take this to a group of teachers and have them kind of, discuss this. I think the one question I had, which Jason answered my question a while back, was, so if a teacher earns an hour and uses that hour, that doesn't mean that now they can earn another hour, so it's still a total of 6 hours.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
it's not rolling.
It's not continually rolling, so it's a 6 hour over a school year.
I think
So I
one of
earned
the-
6 hours, I used 2, I earned 2 more, I'm back up to 6, that's not the
No.
case.
No.
I think one of the things that we were really concerned about, you do have people with an administrative certificate who have been covering for people, but how do we make this equal and fair for all teachers? And I think that is addressed in the ticket taking, they have opportunities to help with some other activities. I think especially in the elementaries, it's really difficult to and to allow that opportunity. So that was one of the things that we looked at, that it's equal for all employees.
Or I guess another question I have, and I think it's answered here, sorry, but if a teacher covers a class period, so they're subbing for a class period, they could take an hour comp time in lieu of the payment, right? Or not, or is that, because I know that happens all the time.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's one of the things that we're really gonna have to iron out with the teaching staff and get in here clearly, because they are already compensated, that's why for that in pay. So again, it comes down to, they're gonna have to have a choice. If they're covering internally, right now, we track it and write it down and pay them
Pay
for
for
it.
it.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to talk to them about, you can't get both,
Right,
so, but yes.
but would they have the option to take, instead of the pay, I want?
And the other thing I think I would look at is the high school and the middle school. You look at the periods, and most of the time when you cover, you're covering for 45 minutes at a time. Usually, so is it just 45 minutes then that they accrue? We aren't gonna round up. We're gonna round to the nearest quarter, so to speak. So those are some things I think that we need to work out to and ask questions, and I have a feeling even when we implement this, we probably are going to run into a situation where we go, okay, what do we do now? And it will be like, okay, let's fix it and work it to make sure that it is the best system and it does what we want it to do.
And we did know with changing from vacation time to PTO, that there would be some
Uh-huh.
challenges with that. I mean, this was really the first year that we did it, but I don't think that there were major challenges. I think it's just a matter of getting used to how do you manage
Right.
your PTO.
Yes.
We're really hoping that we can bring this together with everybody and knowing that it's a win-win for everybody. And it also helps the teachers with some of their things, and it helps us get some people in there. I do anticipate that we might have to make some changes after the first year, because we'll find some things out that aren't perfect, but I think it's a good starting place.
Good. Any other questions on this? All right, superintendent update.
Okay, very short superintendent update. First of all, congratulations to all of our students on their successes this year. What a terrific way for us to end the year with the state golf champion. That's awesome. So, a lot of great things have happened. We've seen students grow in areas we didn't think they would grow. We've seen students master things that they didn't think they could. And so there's a lot of great lessons and challenges that have been accomplished throughout the school year. So congratulations to all of our students on the closure of the end of the year. I would echo Mr. Suter's statements. I always appreciate our graduation experience. I think it's terrific to send our seniors off the way we do. And then with that, I would just finalize with thank you to our staff for all of their hard work and what are challenging circumstances right now. Typically, we have teachers covering classes that they don't normally have to cover. And this year we've had to, teachers have had to cover 2 or 3 classes. So I just want to say congratulations to our students. Thank you to our staff. We had a great retiree celebration yesterday of our 2 retiring classified staff members and 5 certified staff members, and appreciate everything that they've done for the district over the course of the years. With that, a reminder that the topping out ceremony is June 1st from 10 to 11. So you will be getting more information on the location. We're working out all those details of where to park and how to get there as we get closer to next week. But just a reminder that that's taking place. Doug and Christina will also be inviting you to that as well. So that topping out ceremony just represents putting the last beam on at the new elementary school, which is kind of significant because then that means all the steel structure is up and it's time to go to work putting it all together. So just a reminder of that. Finally, I want to talk to you a little bit about the state and federal reporting update on a couple of different things, and Dr. Nielsen will probably chime in here a little bit too. We wanted to talk about this to give you an update of where we are in 3 key categories. So in the state's eyes, there are 3 key things that we have to meet. We have to meet a certain amount of instructional minutes and hours by grade level. So essentially in K-8, that is 1,032 hours. In 9-12, that's 1,080 hours. So we have to meet those amount of hours, okay? Currently, in relationship to that requirement, our Beatrice High School students made it with 1,107 hours, so they were way over the 1,080 they're required. BMS, the middle school, was 1,116, so they're over. Lincoln, Paddock, and Stoddard were at 1,095, and then because of the pipe break, 1,089. So, essentially what that means is we are meeting our hourly requirements above and beyond what we would have to in terms of that requirement. The second requirement is around instructional units. So two things from the state that we really have to pay attention to. And the instructional units are broken out by specific category or subject area. English language arts is we're currently at 83.31. Math, we're at 62.87, the requirement is 40. Social studies, we're at 79.52, the requirement is 40. Science, we're at 109.43, the requirement is 40. World language, 39.73, the requirement is 20. Career technical education, 432.32, the requirement is 80. PE, 33.41, the requirement is 20. Visual performing arts, we are at 132.31, the requirement is 40.
And that really looks at the number of teachers you have at the high school level and the number of courses, the number of different courses that you are offering. So if we just offered, like for example, our English language arts will probably go down next year because we are reducing some of our course offerings. So that is what this is looking at. But right now we are meeting it, and you can see that math, in the core area, math is our lowest. In math, we have 4 teachers, and we cannot, I mean, if we had a 5th teacher, we could offer more. Some different things.
So, all of this will now be inputted into the state reporting system that we're required to, along with, as that starts to roll out from the state and summer moves on, we'll be inputting all that into the state reporting system.
So with the hours, this may be hard to calculate. When would we have met the state minimum standard? Let's take a high school because that's the highest number of hours. Would we have met that at what
So
date?
we were over 27 hours. We have roughly 6 hours in a day. So 27, that would put us at rough 4.5 days. So we would have met it last week,
A week ago,
a week ago, basically. Mhm.
Is there a second requirement and board policy of student days within this discussion as well?
We have 177 student days. Is there a policy that, no.
I don't think there's a policy, I think it's the calendar is what
It's
it comes
just
down
what,
to.
what that comes down to.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because when you look at districts around us, I know that I had a parent that emailed me as to why. Why are we going a week later than everyone else? Well, we have 177 days. There are districts around us that have 170, 172, 173, 74, 75. Now, there is one neighboring that has 179. Tri-County was the only one that I found that was above us. Everyone else was below us.
But
And
still,
it's in
they
the
were out last
contract for certified staff.
yeah, so,
But that's contracted days.
Those are contracted
Right,
days.
Certified staff are contracted 186 days. Yeah. So the student days, I don't know if that's in the contract.
I don't-
Student days is
No.
not.
Student days
Student
is
days.
not, the 186 staff days is.
Right.
Yep.
So really, as you talk about all this, there's three things that you really have to think about, and that is instructional minutes and hours, instructional units, and then your teacher contract days.
And I think, you know, when we look at least from, you know, parents I've talked to, teachers, even students, you know, these last few days of the school year, there is zero learning going on. I mean, I think we can all be pretty, you know, understand that. It's a lot of, okay, we've got to fill the days and we're watching movies, we're, you know, doing other activities. I personally believe we really need to look at next year's calendar and bring that back up. And I would like to do that, you know, potentially at the June board meeting, is look at adjusting that calendar so that we're not in school this late. But yet meeting, obviously, we obviously need to meet the state standards. We want to make sure that our students are getting their appropriate educational time, but I think when we have extra time, it turns into a lot of fluff, in my opinion. But I think we can also do that with continuing to maintain our contracted teacher days.
But you know, when you say that, would that change by shortening the days? Then those days would just come a little bit sooner where you're talking about there's not really a lot going on the last few days.
Well, but I think, you know, when we look at the hours, we've met them, say, last Thursday, for example, when you take the high school requirement of the 1,080, I think that was right.
1,080.
You know, so technically we've met that state requirement, but yet our school calendar pulled us a whole other week.
And was that because we did build in additional snow days? I mean, if we had had a week of snow days, then we would have absolutely had to have those
We have
days.
2 snow days built in. So if we would have used no snow days, we would have gotten out Tuesday of this week.
Mhm.
So we still, I mean, and the thing is, with the snow, we're still over because we made up the 2 days.
Mhm.
So we actually had what we took and we made that up and we were at 11:07. So, yeah.
You know, I think there are, you know, definitely opportunities that we can look at least when I looked at the calendar for next year, that we probably have some days we can, you know, give back, whether it's teacher days, or even student days within that. So I personally would like to see, or at least ask Jason and Jackie administration to go back a little bit to the drawing board and see if there could be some adjustments for the 23-24 school calendar, because we have the time to make it. You know, I think one thing that would be hard to do is, I wouldn't want to change graduation date, you know, because obviously there's a lot of people that already had to reserve, you know, venues, whatever that may be for, you know, graduation celebration. So I think that has to stay within that time frame. But then look at, can we adjust the, at least end of year? And I think it would also be very hard to adjust the beginning of the year. You know, really when we look at it, guys, and I think everybody sees this, and the general public does too, you know, we're out, let's just say, for lack of, even though it's the 25th, it's end of May. So now we've got June, July, and then we're back in school. So we're down to 2 months of summer break. And
Are teachers and students aware that we've already met the requirements and they
I
can just
have
do
heard
the extra
from
fluff?
some teachers, and yeah, they,
teachers, and we,
they're aware.
Ease off?
and I know Jackie's received emails from parents too.
Okay.
They know, and it's also obvious when every other school district, aside from LPS, which generally always goes longer, they have longer breaks, and we're now on their calendar.
Now, I was just thinking, if they're not, the last few days, the students are not gonna be interested in learning anyway, no matter
Well,
when
like
we.
the high school,
That's
when are
right.
we done with final tests and stuff like that?
Today. Today was our
Oh,
last
they
day
go
for finals,
all the
yeah.
way.
So the high school schedules their finals. As we look at, one of the things that we notice is first week of May, we finish NSCAS testing. So, and our teachers push and push and push, and, I mean, by the time after we finish with that NSCAS assessment, our kids are done, I mean, their brains are, they have been on we are going to push every standard into you to make sure that you hopefully succeed on this assessment. So their brains are done, they are tired. I will tell you though, we have walked around in the buildings and we have seen some fun, creative things happening. So things aren't, it's not just.
Right, yeah, I
No.
understand that.
But there are some fun, creative things happening. Our sixth graders were building bridges and seeing how much weight their bridge could hold. I know that we had, at Stoddard, we had a group that they were building a taco stand and working on perimeter and area, geometric principles. So there were some cool things still happening. But I do know that there comes a point in time when kids are just done. Yeah, their brains are tired, they're exhausted. And so that's one of the things we noticed. Is after that INSCAS testing, they're just tired.
And I truly believe we can maintain contracted teacher days within the 186, even by, shortening the school year. There's other opportunities for professional development or other things that can go on to, continue that time frame. Because obviously if we wanted to decrease contracted days, and that goes back to negotiations, and that's probably a whole bigger discussion.
That's a huge discussion.
Which I personally don't wanna get into at
my
this
brain
point.
can take
Yeah,
that type of discussion, jeez.
But I think what we can relook at the 23-24 school calendar, so I guess I would like to ask that you guys look at some options and bring a proposal back to the June board meeting, which is June 12th,
12.
correct?
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's perfectly doable. We can come back with some comparisons, I think, with other schools. We can, the key factor there is, I will tell you, the 186-day contract is pretty consistent. There was actually a school in our array this year that went from 187 to 186 days. So they were more in line with everyone else in our array. So that's pretty standard. That 186 days for staff is pretty much non-negotiable. But the 177 student days, we can do some comparisons, we can look at the calendar. I just want to say that this is never an easy task, so Dr. Nielsen does an amazing job of trying to get a lot of input from a lot of people. And it really comes down to a few key things. It comes down to how many days you take off at Christmas, how many other days in the year you take off, and where you start and where you end. So those, Christmas break is a key factor in all of it and how long that is. So that's also something we'll have to talk about as we do this.
But again, I think, based on the hours we're currently sitting at, we've got room to make adjustments. I mean, ideally, just looking at the 24 calendar, it'd be awesome to say that, a new calendar, May 17th is a Friday, and that's, last day of school, which would be probably more aligned with all the other districts in our area. I'm just assuming, not knowing their calendars, but.
I did hear a lot of positive comments about not having graduation on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
I did hear a lot about that.
And I don't think, and maybe Mr. Suter can talk, that if again, hypothetically, that date was the last day, and we still had graduation on the 19th, I don't know if that's the day of graduation next
I think
year.
it's the 20,
19th is a
I'd
Sunday.
have to look. Oh, then it would be the 19th.
That there would be any issues there, would you see any issues, Mr. Suter?
No, I mean, it'd be different to have our kids be done with school and then have graduation after that. I'd probably not necessarily maybe have a band that would play the processional, but we can pipe that in and things we've done before.
But that also could be, if we made an adjustment for next year, that doesn't mean that that's how it is going forward,
Right. No, I don't.
Because again, I don't think we would probably hear more if we adjusted graduation along with that, in my opinion.
At this point.
At this
At this
point.
point.
Yes.
There- Too many people, and I know this, have reserved venues for graduation parties and so forth.
We just may have a hard time getting some underclassmen to come back for the graduation, but that's not a real integral part of that. It's not about them anyway.
It's still a Sunday, they're still coming in.
Yeah. I don't know if the board's ever considered looking at I've had some people ask me why Sunday? Why not a Saturday? So I don't know if the board's ever even looked at the day of the week that it's held on.
I think, you know, I agree, I asked that question, and I think when you look at the spring sports that Beatrice is involved in, because I do know some of the smaller schools have Saturdays, but they also don't have baseball,
Yeah.
don't have soccer, so if there's ever the
You know,
chance
we
that.
would've had a 10 o'clock baseball game if it would've been on Saturday this year.
Correct. So I think that's where, you know, Saturday versus Sunday that we would
Yeah.
potentially run into some issues there.
Yeah.
You know, I think the other thing too is if we look at adjusting that, it would alleviate somewhat, probably not all, but some of the questions we had about, you know, once state baseball, soccer, tennis, golf, everything hits all in that track, all in that time period, then there's no issue as far as, well, does school get out or not, or whatever that may be. So, is that something that we could definitely look at, is
Yes.
Sure.
some
Yep.
options for an adjusted calendar?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll bring a couple different options or look at some different things and, yes.
Ideally,
How many options do you want?
ideally, one option.
Okay, I'll bring you one. Yeah, we don't want to make
Because
choice,
more
I
than
will bring you
one,
one.
and then
And
we
can
would
we
be-
see them before the meeting?
Yes, I will try and get them out. I've got to get summer school, that's my top priority.
So how
Because-
many do you have enrolled in summer school?
We have 200 and I think we're up to 280,
Okay,
which is a little bit lower. I mean, normally we have 300 and some, so we're down, but we still have room. So I know that I said last week or this week on the radio, everything is running together. I said that we are still open and we will take kids who walk in and get them ready to go. So yeah, yep, it's gonna be exciting. We have some cool stuff going on and cool sessions, so very fun.
Perfect, so we will plan on receiving an option from
An option, yes.
Jackie and Jason prior to the meeting, and then I would like to discuss and potentially vote on changing the 23-24 school year calendar on June 12th.
Will do.
Any other questions for Jason, Jackie? All right, now is the time for public comments. It doesn't appear we have anybody that would like to speak unless you guys would like to add any additional commentary. Otherwise, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 adjourn.
Motion, do I have a second?
Sure. Yes.
Second by Charles. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. We are adjourned.